Okay, today I'm working on a new map because spent the last couple of days trying to fix the server. It crashed out hard and ended up wiping pretty much everything. The only way to fix it was to get a hold of server support. Um, just like last time, I'm going through Ping Perfect, um, and I put in a support ticket because the server literally would not load. Don't know what was happening, but it it crashed out so bad that they actually switched me to a different IP address, which effectively wiped everything. So I don't have the files I was using. And I watched a video from a friend of mine, um, and she mentioned that she didn't much care for the map as it was, that she liked the old map. So I went back and started looking for the old map files. And of course, I couldn't find those either. And I contacted server support about that. And they said that basically once the server was shut down um, canceled, customer canceled, or termination, or anything along those lines, 14 days later, they wipe all the files. Now, while there is still let me see if I can pull it up. There is still a oh, where's it at? There is still a map of the old server online. See if I can. Oh, come on. I don't know why this isn't cooperating today. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, maybe we need to go up like this. And turn that on. There we go. Okay, so the old map does exist, just so you guys can see what it used to look like. And I was doing some work up here, and this was an old PvP arena. Right here was the original town that that we had made for new players, and the boat dock, all that stuff. And then if you came down the coastline, I believe it was this way. Yeah, there's the road. So we put in roads and all kinds of stuff. And then I had a road basically coming all the way down here to my friend's area. And then this was a little island that we called Oak Island, just because it was filled with oaks. But oak trees do decay. You can't just put 100 oaks on it in Wurm and expect it to stay, because oaks typically will only show like one every 5 to 7 tiles. And I had this thing just cram-packed. But she was doing a lot of work here, and she had some stuff going on up here, along the roadside, and her dock area here. I mean, she was working on quite a bunch. You can actually still see an outline of where she would set up one of the borders. And actually, I think that may have been the second one. So maybe these two plots here. But because the server got shut down, the map started decaying and going back to regular. And I can't get this map back. This map's it's done. There was also, I believe, on this island here, there was another guy that was playing, um, somewhere over here, or was it that? No, I don't remember. It's been a couple of years. I know there was somebody playing down in this area right here. They were building a bunch of stuff up. Maybe this is the island I was thinking. Yeah, because I had started a mine, and this was a flat area, but you had to climb the hill to get to it. And I was going to get the Iron Man set up there, but before I could, somebody snuck in and found it, and they were uh, quick to claim it and make it their own, which is fine. Things happen. Uh, but I had roads going all over the place. The big tar lake I had here, and it was literally just a massive lake of tar. Um, there wasn't a whole lot going down here yet, but as you can see, somebody was starting to build something here. So, I mean, obviously it was being used. Um, we had quite a few people, not a lot, but we had a few people hanging out and doing some stuff. And the server stayed up 24/7 until it just got to a point where, I couldn't afford it, and there weren't any donations coming in to add to it. I had another island, I thought. Maybe that's it. Oh, no, I think this is where we were starting to build a pretty good size area for um, like a quest kind of area or whatnot, where you can go in, and it was more of a maze style setup, but you had different creatures that would spawn in there, and um, we were setting up buildings and all kinds of stuff. But that took a hit as well. And then I had another island somewhere that I was working on, and I can't remember where it was at now. But yeah, I forget where it was at now. But anyway, so I think it was down here. It was somewhere that I had the Iron Man stuff going on. I know it was really close to a bunch of, or to another island chain or something. I thought it was right up in here. Yeah, right there. That's where the Iron Man setup was. There's my old mine. And I was working it. That was a patch of garden that I was working on, and starting to do roads and stuff. But this whole area was filled with maple trees and um, willows and all kinds of stuff. And then this was all dense forest in here. But I had some not so friendly creatures fighting with me over there. And then my buddy came over here and started working on an area here. That didn't last very long. He was only on a few times, but he came to check it out and whatnot. So today the goal is to try to recreate something similar, which is why we're working on the map generation. And I don't like this. This is just kind of I was testing things out. So the first goal is to try to get a height map going and see if we can get like 2, maybe 3 islands to try to get well, we don't want all of the little tiny islands is mainly the thing. We want a couple of good sized land masses. It's okay if there's a few islands, but we don't want massive amounts of tiny little islands. And this one has exactly that. So it takes a little while, but until I can get a new map done, I can't put Seattle Sanctuary back up. I believe I've corrected the issue. I've tested it a couple of times with the standard creative map. It seems to be working. It's not crashing yet, so for now, it's just sitting there. So if we can get a good map on there, and everything still seems to be okay, then we'll open it up and let people play on it. Okay, so what you're seeing right now is a height map, and that's what we do. Generate a height map. We can set the size. You can put in any seed number you want. You can also go with random seeds. The resolution is a number that we put in for whether we want more islands, less islands, one big land mass, or something kind of in the middle. Iterations is how many times it goes through. Minimum edge is the size of the water border around it. So if we want more water, we can increase that number. And then the border weight is how many mountains or how spread out the mountains are. Max height, and then the normalized ratio. So we have a height map. Let's see what we get when we drop the dirt. We want to make sure the biome seed matches. So copy that. We don't want any weird stuff going on. Paste that in there. We want to make sure that max height does not go above what our height map says. We've got 3,000 there. You can put maximum dirt height to above the height map, but that just means that all of your mountains are covered in dirt and grass and stuff. And we want a few exposed rocks, so even if they're at the very top. Water height, and then the cliff ratio. We don't want to set this too high because that'll make everything. Yeah, how what'd that say? How much cliffs protrude? Less equals buried cliffs, more equals lots of cliffs. So let's go ahead and drop the dirt. This does take a second. Again, I'm running on an older system. If you've got a beefed out newer rig, this would be a lot faster. If you're doing it, we're using the map generator version 2.9, and this is it's called WGenerator. It's all smashed together. So WGEN stands for Wurm Generator, but it spells out the whole word generator. It's just got the W in front of it. And this is how I'm creating the maps. It's how I created the last map. You could also import a height map if you have an area that you like for instance, if you wanted London and Ireland as the two islands or whatever, you find a height map of just those two areas, and you can import that. Okay, that's not quite what we want. We want a bit more. We want a bit more island than just that. But we don't want the whole thing covered like this. So I think what we need to do is go back to the height map. We want to drop, or we want to uncheck the more land, and we want to switch. Was it border? We want, yeah, we want the resolution. So we're going to go, let's try 250. And see what happens. It's going to be kind of a boring video, guys. Just making sure that we have a decent landmass to play on. I'm going to move this over so I can see the chat. I doubt there's going to be anybody in chat, but you never know. And hopefully within 20 minutes or maybe in half an hour, we'll actually have a map that'll be workable. Yeah, dogs are acting up again. Okay, I can already tell I don't like that. That's going to make a bunch of different islands. We definitely don't want that. So let's drop the border weight down, because that's how spread out the islands are, or the mountains are. And let's try a 7. We'll regenerate. And then I'll show you a little trick if it's not quite right. On how to adjust to get rid of some of the little islands. So right now I have the water set to 300 deep, which is more than ample for the boats to sail on. The map that I was showing you from the old server I was having to go through and fix a bunch of the water channels because they were just too shallow. And you couldn't get, if you were above a rowboat, you couldn't get the boats to go very far. Maybe a caravel, but any of the big ships, forget it. They sink too far down in the water, and even though you can literally get in the water and look and see that they weren't touching, they would say that they were touching the bottom. That didn't quite work, so let's drop this to a 5. Yeah, let's drop that to a 5 and try one more time. Kind of bring the mountains in a little bit. So what I'm looking at here is these white spots are going to be the mountains. That's how a height map works. The dark spots are the low, and the bright spots are the highs. So you can see there's going to be an island there, there's going to be an island there, there's going to be one there. We don't really want that. We want a couple of good size island areas. I think maybe I went the wrong direction. Let's see. Less equals islands, more equals one landmass. Okay, so yeah, I went the wrong direction with that one. So this one isn't going to work either. We'll jack this number up a bit. And this is a 4K map. It gives you options for 1K, 2K, 4K, 8K, and 16K. The 8K is the largest map on the official servers, the Wurm Online servers. 4K is about a standard map. 2K is good for smaller populations. 1K if it's just you and maybe a couple of friends. 16K is going to kill your system. You could have a really, really beefy computer and it's going to lag, it's going to chop, it's going to be really, really hard. And it's super massive. So the way to think about this, if a 1K is good for 1 to maybe 4 or 6 people, a 2K is 4 1Ks in a squared window pattern. So it'll be like this corner here, this quarter is 1K, but this is 2K. Well, a 4K, which is what we're working on, this corner is going to be a 2K map, and so is this one, and this one, and this one. So you've got 4 of the 1Ks here. So that's 16 times the size just for a 4K map. And then if you move it up to an 8K, which is the large map, that's 4 of the 4K maps. So it gets really big really fast. We're going to stick with a 4K. We're going to jack the resolution up. We're going to try something like 750. Because I can already tell we're not going to like this one either. And we went the wrong direction with trying to make large land masses. And this number might end up being even bigger. We'll see what happens. Again, this is just creating a new map for the new server because the old map is gone. And there are methods that I can use to try to take the old map image and put it in here, but it's a long drawn out process and it involves multiple um, different runs with different softwares just to bring it in here and have something even similar. So it's easier just to create a new one. Then when we get back into the server design, we're going to fix the aggressive ratio. It's still set to 10. But if any of you watch the other video, ooh, that looks promising. That looks promising. Okay. Um, anyway, if you watched the last video, I ended up finding a troll that chased me down. Found a bunch of wolves and a wolf's den, and I really wasn't even looking. So it got real nasty real quick, and I ended up dying because of the troll. I knew I was going to die, um, simply because he wouldn't stop chasing me. If I had been able to make it to the water, and that's the trick, most creatures cannot chase you in water. But if I had been able to make it to the water, I'd have survived. Okay, so this looks promising, so we're going to go ahead and drop the dirt and see what it looks like. Because this might actually be pretty good. I mean, that you can tell there's a mountain up here, there's a mountain down here, there's a little chain running through here, there's a large mountain here that kind of expands this way and expands this way. So there's probably some sort of a like a culvert or cavern through here. There's a small mountain here. There's a little mountain chain here, more mountains down here. I mean, this might actually be pretty good. There's even a little one over here. And if this is a decent setup for landmass, even if there's 4 or 5 islands, I'm okay with that. It's just got to have at least one large one that I can start players out on, and they can expand from there. You can swim across. If this whole thing was water, you could swim across this. It's going to be dangerous, but you could do it. I think an easier trek might be, I mean, it's longer, but you might want to go up and around this way if you want to get to that. Okay, still a few too many islands, but let me show you that little trick I was talking about. If we change this from 300 to say 400, and then we drop the dirt again, that's going to bring the water level up, and you'll notice when it gets a lot closer that it is some of the, when it finishes and re-renders the map, some of these little islands are just going to disappear. Like these guys here, these are going to disappear. They're going to be underwater. And the key to the map generation is just trying to get your numbers right. It's perfectly fine that there's a little bit of land around the mountain, because that's where people are going to settle. They're right next to water. They're right next to rocks. So they can mine, they can fish, they can build their boats. Um, it's really not too bad. Areas like this are also used, because some people don't care if they have to travel a little bit to go mining. They want their a larger plot of land for farming. Maybe they're not so much into mining. See, a lot of that just disappeared. And we can go the opposite direction too and see if that eliminates. So let's go 150 and see what that creates. We're not going to stick with this map. We're still working on the height map. But I wanted to show you how the map generation is done for custom servers. I'm sure there are probably other map generator tools out there, but WGenerator has had a couple of different iterations. 2.9 seems to be the most stable, and it's an old program. Wurm Unlimited's been out for quite a few years, and it's not supported by the official channels. They basically said, hey, we're going to stop doing anything for you. We'll leave the standalone, but we're not going to give you any more updates. So people came out with mods to fix stuff, different things. And some people have mentioned, including myself, that we actually like it this way. We don't want all the newfangled nonsense that they added in. We like the way that it used to be. So that's why we play here. We have our own community. In fact, there's a large community of people that just they switch back and forth. Hi Corbett, how are you? So we're going to go back to the height map since this is not what we want for sure. We're going to change, we're going to bring the resolution up even further. Let's go 1050. And we want the border weight down a little further, so we're going to go with 3 and see what that looks like. What am I up to? Well, I just started my server back up. I had one a couple of years ago, and I had to let it go for a while. And now I've restarted a server, and my map files are gone. So I'm showing everybody how I go through and generate a new map specifically for Wurm Unlimited, so that we can get the map up and running on the server, and I can open it up to the public. There are a lot of people out there that like to play by themselves, and then there's a lot of people that like to have a community, and this is a game that I wouldn't necessarily say the community is dying. I would just say that it's stretched out. Wurm as a whole died out years ago, but there's still quite a few diehards out there that like to play, including myself. And I like having a server that people can feel free to come and check out and build on and just hang out and have some fun. How I generate maps is with it's a program called WGenerator. It's version 2.9, and we're just going in and generating the height map. And then we go over, this one looks like it's got more of a centralized mountain. And then you drop the dirt on it to see what it looks like, and you insert, you can do erosion to make it a little more smooth. You insert the biomes, the ores, and then save all of the map files and import it into your server. And if you get everything right, people like the map, then you'll get quite a few people that want to play that are diehard Wurm fans. Wurm's been out for quite a while, and I choose to play on the unlimited servers, and I have played on multiple unlimited servers from other people. Um, and there's some of them are pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. There are some really really good servers out there, um, with real strong communities, and then there's others that are just vacant. Um, and there's reasons they're vacant. What seems to be at the time a really good idea to you when you're making your maps and stuff, may not come over well with the public. Um, a lot of people don't necessarily want to play on, you know, nothing but ice, for example. Um, you're missing out on a ton of resources. They don't want. See, that one's not so bad. So if we bring this back up to 400 and we drop the dirt again, that might actually be a pretty good playable area because that'll get rid of some of these small ones. But anyway, um, some people might not want a lava-filled area. You've got to have areas that they can use for resources and build on, and land that they can use. So the the players are the ones that actually control more about what your map should look like. If you're struggling to get players, keep players, whatever, it might be something to do with your map. You have to have a really good foundation to build any kind of home, and your server is their home. Let's see, trying to get people, uh, trying to bring some people back at least to Unlimited. That's a good goal. Um, I would love to see more people playing Unlimited. Problem is, it's basically a dead game. So it's a struggle to try to get players that they're used to the more modern graphics and stuff to come and check out something with more, um, what they would consider, um, old, garbage graphics. Worm is not the prettiest game in the world. It is, oh no, 400 was too much. That wiped out almost everything. But I like that style iteration. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the height back up to 5,000 and see if we can get that good. We're going to go through, let's drop this to 80 iterations, and we're going to regenerate and see if we can come up with something pretty good. We need a couple of good size islands. I'm a programmer and I like doing stuff, so I wanted to try modding the game. I just, uh, I just don't know it well enough to have ideas. Never thought the map would have such a massive impact. Yeah, your map is your base for everything. Um, I've been on servers that they had a really really cool looking map, but there were no resources. You mine for days, and there simply weren't any ores to be had. Um, I've been on other maps where mining was just nuts. They had every ore you could think of just within a few clicks. So you don't want to give too much because then nobody really has anything to. There's no goal to strive for. But at the same time, if they don't have land to build on, then they're not going to want to come either. If I put this map out that's showing on the screen, sure, a few people might show up, but for the most part, it would be dead. There's not really much there to work with. I'm also studying game dev and might try remaking Worm. Would be a big task. Yeah, that would be a massive task. But with a good team, it would be possible. Absolutely. There is no game out there in the world that you cannot rebuild, um, if you keep in mind that there might be copyright or trademark issues that you might have to fight with. But if you make it different enough, then it's called artistic license, and you can pretty much do whatever you want. There are people out there. I'm not sure if you're familiar with an old RPG game named called EverQuest, but there are people out there that have remade that a couple of times over. And although it's not the exact same, it's similar enough that people get the idea. I know a guy that he was trying to do that on a platform called Roblox, and he was building the land masses, and they were not the same, but they were recognizable enough, putting in very similar creatures and so forth. But the difference between Wurm and something like that is Wurm doesn't really have quests to worry about. There are a few like achievements and such that you can do, and there are mods out there that add quests in. So it's a really good foundation. But if you want to recreate it, absolutely, my thumbs up, you know, to you. It is a massive task, but you're right, with a good team, you could do it. Let's try 350, see if we can make these land masses a little bit bigger. Don't necessarily like how close the mountains are, though, because that puts all mountains on one, although I did say that I wanted a couple of different mountains, or different land masses. The biggest issues I've had are probably keeping it moddable, as you said, different enough not to cause copyright infringement. Absolutely. If you, well, Worm was created in, I believe it was Java, but I'm not 100% certain. I know a lot of the mods are made in Java. So if you get really good at JavaScript, um, and yes, that's an older language as well, then something like Worm would be very possible for modding. If you use a different programming language, I mean, you could use Unity. Unity's got a really good engine, and you can do a lot of stuff in Unity. But some people don't necessarily like Unity, even though that's clearly moddable as well. I'm not 100% certain what um, the game Skyrim was made in, but there are tons of mods out there for Skyrim. Um, and I want to say that one was made in Unity, but I'm not 100% certain. So let's see. I'm not sure that actually changed the map any. Water height. Let's try 300. So up here, if we can either drop the dirt or we can update the water. And just updating the water gives an out. It just puts the dirt there. There's no grass. So you can see how it's affecting. So we can, if we wanted to, we could drop this down to say 150. And you could see, let's update the water again. You could see where the land will change. Yeah, see there's tons of little islands at 150, and we don't want that. I would be okay with like this being an island, this being an island, this being a massive island here, maybe a little island here and here, but I wouldn't want the rest of this in here. Um, that's gonna get you stuck in your ships way too frequently. So um, border weight needs to go back up. So we're going to bring this back up to, let's bring it up to 6. We don't want more land because more land is going to basically take over the area. That's why we're using the resolution to try to create more land. So we can do it that way. And we'll put, let's do 1250 here and see what kind of height map that generates. Let's see. um, as far as I know, it works with Java, which is different from JavaScript. Oh, yeah, very true. Sorry, I misspoke there. Um, I would work in Unity with C Sharp. Yeah, C Sharp is the C Sharp's been around for a long time as well, but Unity keeps C Sharp working with their programs because it's a very stable language. And a lot of people, most of your um, mobile apps are made with Unity. There are quite a few that are made, on other platforms as well, but Unity is a very solid engine from my perspective. There's obviously people that would disagree with me, um, but uh, games like this that are Java based um, are still out there too. So either direction you want to go, that would be it's more up to what you're more comfortable programming in, which where you have more knowledge. I've learned 7 different programming languages over the course of my life, and I've probably forgotten 6 of those. I'm currently only somewhat versed still in Python, um, and that's specifically because I've been working in Roblox quite a bit, but I had to shift back to Wurm. Um, Wurm has been a passion for a long time, and I enjoy the community. I enjoy the game itself. I like getting in and just tearing things up and building my own stuff, and um, feeling that massive accomplishment um, when my first house goes up, when I finally get the cart built, um, when I find that first vein of glimmer steel. Um, there's a lot of things that feel really, really rewarding in Worm, even though the quests aren't there. But like I said, there are mods out there that you can add to your server that have quests, and if you're interested in making a that didn't spread it out very much. Making a game very similar to Worm, um, and adding more quests, then that might be a real big key to bringing people in as well. Plus the fact that it'll be a new game, it'll be a little tricky to get people to come unless you've got a good method of advertising. Um, but if you find a good platform that'll advertise for you or whatnot, I mean, word might get out really fast, and before you know it, you've got tens of thousands of people all playing your game, um, and you're sitting back saying, trying scratching your head trying to figure out what just happened because the day before there was 300 people, um, and maybe even that was a huge milestone. But no, I'm all for it, brother. Do what you got to do. I encourage programmers of every sort to do what um, what others haven't done. Achieve the goals that other people haven't thought of. Um, do things in a different way that maybe somebody didn't quite get right, in your opinion. Tweak things, add things, take things away, make it your own. That's the only way you're going to be able to stand out. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be seeing Corbett's game out there and jump in and play and just be amazed at what you've put together. Think I'd add a few things, thinking of quests, auction houses, maybe increase tech progression a bit. That would be good. That would be good. I'm not 100% certain because I haven't played on Wurm online in a while, but they might have auction houses. I know there are market stalls. There's a mod out there for market stalls. I had them on the last server. But that is very different than an auction house, for certain. And questing is one of the things that, I've thought about putting a mod in my server that adds a bit of questing. Um, but the community's a little different here. It's most people like to just kind of do their own thing. They don't want to have a bunch of hand holding. So I would suggest, and it's obviously your choice, but I would suggest if you do add quests, don't make them mandatory. Make them optional, and then they can choose to do the quests if they want to. No auction houses online, only traders you can place. Okay, so so very similar to what the mod is for here. Then okay, I appreciate that. Um, I like being corrected when I'm wrong and gaining new knowledge regardless. I still don't like this. I mean, I'm getting I'm liking the map better, but I don't like it with the mountains. So border weight, I think, still needs to go up. Let's try 9. We'll bring it up a little further and see if we can get it spread out a little bit more. But I'm digging the island chain thing going on here. That means that people don't necessarily need, and there are still a few other scattered islands, but it means that they don't necessarily need a boat to get, to the furthest edges. They can actually go out and explore. And for me personally, that's a huge thing because if the main landmass is taken up, they can go and check out other areas and see if they can find a spot to build somewhere else. Maybe it's not right next to a mine, but um, they have that option of making a plot way over here if they wanted to, and there's still a little mountain right there. So they might be able to find a mine and just because this doesn't look like mountain, that may still be raised terrain. So they could still dig into the ground, hit rock, and start a mine. That it would just be a shallow mine because if they dig too far down, they're going to hit water. Let's see. As you said, I'll make them optional, probably very much progression based. Started with mechanics and moving on to tech. Absolutely. That is a fantastic idea. Let's drop the dirt here, see where we're at. At some point, I'm going to update my tower because this old beast is probably 15 years old. It's still chugging along, but it's it's definitely starting to show its age. Sad thing is it still probably outperforms newer systems, people with twice the budget. And it's a pre-built system, so it's kind of locked into specifics. It has a specific motherboard that's in there that I would literally have to change out the motherboard before I could update it any further. The graphics card, I could only go up one um, little tiny tier in the same line for to upgrade the graphics card, but it's not worth it. Oh, okay, there we go. There we go. That's a little better. So if we leave, let's see, if we drop this back down to 350, that'll make those little islands a little bit bigger. As long as no new ones poke out. I can see a new one, a little one right there, a little dirt. But that still gives plenty of room for people to travel around. Yep, there's that little one. That makes these islands stand out a little bit more. Let's try 300. Let's update the water there, which will give us more brown. We'll have to drop the dirt again, but I'm looking for an outline here. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. Let's go ahead and drop the dirt and see what that looks like. Yeah, you'd pretty much have to get an entire new PC, which can be a big investment, maybe secondhand. You'd find something cheaper and competent. There's still there's nothing wrong with an old machine if it works for its intended purpose. And this one has been uh, chugging along for a long time, and it still keeps up. I'm still able to play games on this one that I'm not supposed to be able to. There are a few games that I'd really like to check out, but I simply can't hang. Um, but at some point, yeah, I'm gonna invest in a new system. It's not gonna be another pre-built. I will be building my own. I've priced it out to right around 5 to 7 grand, uh, depending on the internal components. I have a couple of different choices that I'm looking at, but everything's going to be built, and not just something that some company threw together and said, "Hey, yeah, this is a gaming system." No, no, it's really not. I'm forcing it to be one, but it's not. Okay, so that's not terrible. It's not great either. I don't like these points um, that are in the corners. It's kind of forcing them. So that's not going to be good. That just closed in that waterway, so I'd have to dig that out. Um, let's try, let's go up to 12, shove the mountains out a little further, and we're going to increase the resolution yet again to 1500 and see what that looks like. That should still leave us with a few small islands, but hopefully not shoving it all the way to the edge. I'm hoping it'll kind of still have the mountains spread, but it'll be more like island chains. And this is definitely taking longer than 20 minutes like I thought. Sometimes it takes a while to generate anything decent. I don't want to just throw something together and send it out there because um, that could end up being the death of the server. Nobody wants to play on a server that has a garbage map. Just like I wouldn't want a map that's 1,000 of these little tiny islands. There's nowhere to dig. There's nowhere to. I mean, sure, you could own the whole island, but why? When you literally have to sail everywhere or swim everywhere, that's a pain in the tuchus. Okay, well, that's got a massive edge right there. I can see that right now. That one's going to have an edge. Let's um let's go ahead and drop the dirt and see what it looks like. I might be able to work with that a little bit. I don't like it, but I might be able to work with it. So let's see what we got. And like I said, with a more powerful system, this process would already be done. Um, the map generation, I've watched videos on newer systems that are built for um, pretty intense games. I mean, specifically built so that the owner could handle one particular game that they really wanted to play, um, and then they came over and did some work in the Wurm generator and map design, even just in Blender, creating different items, and it's just screaming fast. All right, what do we got? Go ahead, update your map. I'm hoping here in a little bit we'll actually be able to get this get a map implemented, and I can kick the server off, do some work over there. I mean, server's up and running, but it's just got the default map. That didn't really change a lot there. Newest version of the program. Which program's that? You talking about Wurm Generator? The map generator for Wurm? Okay, that's kind of workable. So we're definitely getting close. Which version are you using? If it's newer than this one, I'm all ears. I'd like to know, because I might switch out for a newer version that might be a little more friendly. Um, 1.11 was an old version. This is 2.9. And 1.11 was very finicky. 1.14 was very finicky. 1.01 was even more finicky. They worked on some systems and didn't work on others, and then one day it would be perfectly fine on your system and not want to work the next day. But for sure, if there is a newer version of this that's a bit more friendly, then yeah, I'm all for it. This one's a little complicated. It's not like terribly, but okay, so the mountain spread is perfectly fine. That's not completely terrible, but actually I might stick with this one. Let's redrop the dirt. That way we're not looking at grass and stuff under the water. And this does have a few little islands and such. Yeah, version 2.9.0 was a remake of version 1. Different author or creator, whatever, going down a different thread. So he took the old stuff and changed a few things, kind of made it his own. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier with remaking Wurm. Take the old stuff, take what you like, remake what you don't, and go from there. This is workable. Let me see. Got a couple of little islands. So something like that would be okay for somebody that wanted to be very private. You can see based on I'm zooming in as much as I can here. Based on the topography here, see if I can get the topological map to work. There we go. So this is all grassland and shore. But if you go back to the height map, oh, don't do that. That's way down there. See how it's all, there's a couple of little white spots. And that's kind of what we want. Actually, I think it was that right there. That guy. So it'll give a couple of little areas that they could dig. So that's good. That's workable. Switch back to the regular map. And even if you don't want to create your own server, don't want not interested in making a map for a server, whatever, you can still download this program and play around with it, see what you come up with. You might be able to generate some really awesome maps that other people might want to use. So I think this will work well enough. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hit the erosion. We don't want a lot of iterations. We're going to drop this down to 75. Minimum slope 20, we're going to drop that to 15. And maximum slope 300. So anything between a slope of 15 and 300 is going to get erosion dealt with. And then we're going to have to re-drop the dirt. Just generated a food-looking one. I'm going to guess you meant good. Good is better. Is good. One that looks like food might be interesting. I can't really envision a map looking much like a hamburger, but yeah, I kind of figured you meant good. Then we go back to dirt and we redrop, and we're going to bring the dirt height up as well. I'm just trying to get the base set up because the drop dirt is just the base. And then when you go into the biomes and you do the grass seed, that drops more dirt, but you can also add flowers and stuff. Try seed 1778, blah, blah. Is that the default seed when you unclick the random? Because there's a checkbox at the bottom that says random seed. If you uncheck it, there's a default seed that pops up at the top. And every time you open the program, it'll default to that same number. So if you didn't change the number, then that's going to be the default. And yes, you're right. It is a pretty decent looking map. Okay, as you can see, the erosion has wiped away some of the dirt covered areas on the mountains. And that's what we want. We want people to be able to see the mountains. So if we go into here, yeah, we're still in drop dirt. So we want to go back to our height map. We're at 5,000 here. So dirt, we want at least to 4,000. And that's going to bring it further up the mountain so that basically only the tops are going to be showing for the last 1,000 feet. And then we're going to erode it again so that some of the sides show. That way most of it's covered, but there are going to be exposed areas. That little detail makes a world of difference when you're actually playing the game. On the original creative map, there are only a few spots that I've seen that you can actually see rock sticking out, and it's because they didn't do any kind of erosion. It just happened to be a slope that was too steep, or it was an anomaly here and there. Sure, there are a few spots where you see rock aplenty, um, but if you want new players to come in and see what's going on and not have to climb 3/4 of a mountain just to get to rock because their digging skill sucks, make it so that there's a bit of erosion going down the sides so they can see exposed rock down below. Okay, so what we're looking for here, see that brought the grass level, the dirt level, way up on the mountain. So only the peak is showing now. So to give you a good example, if we go in here to the biomes and we go all the way down to snow, and trust me, there's a lot of biomes here. But we want to go all the way down to snow, and we're going to go minimum height 4,500, maximum height 5,000. We don't want it around water. And the seed count doesn't need to be that many because we're not doing that many. But the biome size is 200, so we're going to start with 100. We're going to zoom all the way back out, and we're going to add the biome, which is going to update the map again. This is how people put snow on top of their mountains. They'll build a really tall peak, and then they'll just put snow at the very top. You cannot put grass on top of snow. The snow will override it. Trees will also not grow in anything other than grass. So it's got to be a grass seed. You got to put your oh, why did that not go? Max height 4,000. Oh, it's being silly again. Okay, so let's go max height 6,000 and try it again. Nope, it's going to force the 4,000. So, although I like this map, we have to fix this. So we're going to go to 5,500 and just regenerate the height map. Because this is going to turn out okay. It'll be a nice workable map. There's plenty of flatter areas. There's rocky areas. There's lots of water. Lots of things for lots of different types of people. So we're going to go ahead and regenerate. The map default name. Okay, so it's very similar, but not quite the exact same. As far as the default map versus the seed you gave. So for those that are going to watch this later and not necessarily see the chat and want to be able to experiment, Corbett is saying the default map name is 1778258649085. The seed he was trying that he said looked good is 1778258733921. So if you feel spontaneous and you want to check out a map seed that somebody thought looked pretty good, go check it out. That way, anyone that's watching later can get the same numbers, even though they won't be able to see the chat. We want to try to share as much information as we can. And right now, I'm just trying to fix the snowy peaks. Version 2.9.0 has a weird glitch that has never been fixed. Below a certain height, the snow for its maximum height will drop below its minimum height, which basically renders that biome null and void. I don't know why it does it, but if you generate your height map to above a certain point, then it stops doing it. So I think what it is it's programmed to only work at a certain minimum height and above, and it's not the minimum height that causes the issue, it's the maximum height. Okay, so there's our dirt. We want to erode and drop dirt again. And what that does is it actually erodes the map, the height map. So when you drop the dirt the second time, it still shows exposure. But it also kind of flattens out some areas too. All right, let's see what we got. Show me the new map. It's not going to show me the new map. Well, let's try to force it. Now this big mountain here might be, it's gonna annoy me. It is. Same with this one here. It's cutting it off at a certain point and it's making a flat top. I don't think I like that, but I suppose it's okay. There are going to be some people that want to, conquer the mountains and so forth, but most people in this game are going to want to be able to just build their stuff, and um, it's fun to be able to just challenge your climbing skills and get to the top. It is a good way of working up your climbing skills. There we go. That shows more rock face at the sides. Let's go try that that snow setup again. Here we go, 5,500, and it's still breaking. So this map, apparently, if I want, you know what? Let's try. Let's try to drop the minimum and see if that fixes it. Nope, it drops it to 4,000. Let's go 3,500. Sometimes you can trick it into doing what you want, but okay, that didn't change. So that's going to drop dirt at 30, or drop snow, I'm sorry, at 3,500. So maybe now we can go 5,500. Nope, it's going to stay stuck at 4,000. So I guess the only way I'm going to be able to get this to work is max height at 4,000. And we'll regenerate. Sorry, this is such a long process, guys. We got to have a decent map to be able to play on. And this one, I mean, I can live with this one. I'll probably still generate other maps and save them just so I've got them later on. But I don't want, 1,500 feet of rock above the snow level. You can see right here, it literally stops in a straight line, so it's not going above 4,000. If we're going to have snowy peaks, we may as well have snowy peaks, right? And that might help to flatten this out a bit too, because the maximum height for the map might be 4,000. I've done some that it allowed it to go higher than that, but the tops weren't that flat. We're going to go back to dirt, and max dirt height, we're going to go 3,500. Keep it down. That should give us something very similar to what we just had. And don't worry, Biddy, I'm drinking my coffee. Uh, for those of you that don't know, Old Biddy Gaming has recently started her video streams up again. She records and then posts. She doesn't do live streaming. She doesn't do cameras, but she is phenomenal on the microphone. She explains everything, and like me, she doesn't edit things out. She just goes for it and does it. And if you want to watch, then I encourage you to go and check her out. She did a video yesterday, kind of poking fun at me a little bit, um, because I was poking fun at mine already having reinforced floors and stuff. Okay, let's erode. And maybe the snow will help to kind of cover the flat top edges. We'll see. But she has a habit of forgetting to drink her coffee, and it gets cold, and she don't like cold coffee. I don't either. But I can pretty much promise you my cup's probably a little bigger than hers. I have a 32 ounce, I think, um, thermos that I use, and I'm guessing that she uses a regular coffee cup. And this is going to be a long recording for YouTube. But for those that are still with it, we're also live on live streaming, if I can spit my words out, over on Twitch. And that's where the live streams are being held. The recordings are being posted to YouTube. And no, I do not record everything. So YouTube tends to get a good portion of it, but not necessarily everything. So if you want to see everything happening live, come over to Twitch. The description, it will be down below for the address. Okay, that actually looks pretty decent for the erosion. I can see quite a few rock faces that are open. So we'll go with that. Let's try the biome again. 3,500 to 4,000. Add biome. And of course it dropped to 3,500. Oh, this thing is so frustrating. Okay. No snow on this map. But if you feel the need to fight with the snow and try to get it working, figured out, Corbett says, "Hi YouTube. Remember to wear your coffee and drink your socks." Um, yeah, I've worn plenty of coffee in my days, and I have yet to drink a sock, but I'll have to try that sometime. But yeah, if you want to fight with the snow and try to get it to work on your maps or whatnot, and you get it to work, feel free to let me know how that's working, because I'm really tired of fighting with it. So we're going to change this one more time. We're going to go to a flatter max height just to eliminate the flatness of the mountains. We're going to stop at 3,000, and hopefully that fixes the flatness. We're going to see border weight. We're going to bring this back down to 10 to try to pull this mountain away from the corner a little bit, because I'm really not digging these corners. That's those two things are my biggest gripe right now. It's the flat top mountains and these corners. So if I can bring those in a bit, and we're going to bring the minimum edge out to 25, so there's more room to swim or to sail around the edges. and we're going to bring the iterations up to 120. That's going to take a little bit longer. I like the resolution because I like the mountain or the island chains going on here. So we're going to leave that. We'll see what we end up with this time. But yeah, these flat top mountains are just peeving me off. I was hoping that the snow would fix that, but that's not the case. And then these corners, you can see, like this one here especially, you can see a line going down there. That's a height line. I don't like that. Can it be fixed? Absolutely. Usually in game, somebody else will find it. They'll decide that they want that as their plot of land, and that's a nice little plot of land. It's close to the water. You got a lot of room to work with. You got a mountain right next to you. So that's a good little spot if you want to be really far away from everything else. That's about as far away as you can get. But yeah, they would end up fixing that anyway. But I don't, just for the sake of the map itself, I just don't like it. There's also a nasty little line. I'm sure you guys can see it coming down through here and going. You can see it kind of right here, and it follows all the way up here. It's the corners of the mountains. I don't like that either. So I may end up having to pull the mountains back a little bit and doing a different island chain, but yeah, I can see that line right there as well. So you know what? We're gonna switch this, and we're gonna go ahead and try this other seed that Corbett suggested. Yeah, I know it means that we got to start over, but Control V to paste. Let's start over. We're not getting, I mean, we're close, but we're not quite there. All we're changing is the seed name right now. And hopefully that pulls things away a little bit. And then don't forget, when you switch over to the dirt, you want to change it here as well. Otherwise, you end up with some anomalies that just look really weird when you get into game. You'll end up with like a single tile that's just, it's a grass tile, but it's peaked in a really, really weird way. And they're if you run around your map, you'll find them all over the place. Or you'll find craters, not like round meteor strike crater, just like a corner of a tile that dives below everything else, and then the next tile is like, 500 tiles higher or whatever. It's a really weird setup. So make sure your biome seeds match for your height map and for your dirt, and that'll fix 90% or better of the issues. And I don't mind doing an entire video just on the generation of the map, and then doing the next one on actually playing or whatnot. Every once in a while we need to change things up and show some of the behind the scenes stuff. All right, so let's go back to the dirt, and we'll drop the dirt and see what this one looks like. That looks like there's a lot of open water out here, but I'm not really I mean, there's a little bit of a line here on the edge, and then right here, but that's workable. I don't see those nasty corners. So we might have better luck with this one. And just like the last time I ran a server, if this takes off and there's several people that are playing or whatnot, I may end up adding a um, neighbor server that you could sail to from one map to the other, um, which would have yet a different map as well. I did that last time and it worked out okay, but I was using it more as a test server for the mods and stuff before allowing anybody over, and a few people were allowed over, but not many. So the general population was out in the main map with no access to the other one because it was password protected. Okay, um, that's got a lot of mountain, not a lot of water. So let's update the water down to 300 and see what the map really looks like. That's plausible. And see what it looks like after we drop the dirt. This is the seed that Corbett was mentioning. You guys can see the number up in the top corner. Just waiting on the dirt to drop. And then the map will update. We'll have a better view of what this is going to potentially look like. It looks like there's a lot of mountains, though. That might be too many mountains. Not that you can actually have too many mountains, but we want a lot of flat as well. Okay, well, by dropping the dirt, that actually doesn't look so bad. And if I was to use this map as it is, I would probably put the starter location down here. Why not somewhere more centralized? Because this has a little mountain. It's got room to be able to build a little town. It's a nice spot where basically it causes people to go out and explore. The difficult thing now is if the starter town is down here, or the spawn in location is down here, and you want your spot up here, that's a lot of land to have to traverse. Your easiest path looks like it would be along the coastline here and then cutting through the mountains. The problem is, cutting through the mountains also tends to run the risk of aggressive creatures. So if you wanted to take the slow boat to China, so to speak, you could go out and around and follow the coastline this way and cut across and then follow this coastline out and around. And that's a long travel. This is going to be your shortcut. You could also follow this outer coastline all the way around. But you don't really have much of a mountain out here. I mean, I'm sure there's some height here a little bit. There are some sparse islands. So not a terrible map overall. Let's see if we can spread the mountains out a little bit more though. So let's put this back to 12 for this one. We're going to stick with the 3000. We're going to leave the resolution at 15 because I think that looks okay. Actually, we're going to make this 15 as well. We're generate a new height map. And hopefully we'll have a workable map by the end of the stream. Yeah, it's still, oh, let me verify. It's still recording. So we're now at an hour and 41 minutes. So this is going to be a long YouTube video, and it's literally showing everything that was live streamed. But we don't want to forget our subscribers and viewers over on YouTube. And who knows, maybe somebody really needs to see how these Wurm generator programs actually work. We can get a decent base map. We will start working with the biomes and the ore. And I do have a an ore map that I use, or an ore distribution method that I use, so that things are plentiful to start with, and then mid-game they're not as plentiful, and then end-game stuff like the Glimmer Steel is a rare find. Okay, we'll go back in here to the dirt, and we're going to drop the dirt. But there's really no point in putting in the ores yet until you get the map base that you're looking for. Just waiting on the dirt now. And while we're doing that, I'm looking up my notes for my ores, because at some point I'm going to need that. Okay, so we want that doesn't look much different. There is a bit more of a mountain here. There's a little bit there. So we're going to have to go through this one more time. Let's put this up to 25. That's a big jump. but that might spread the mountains out a little bit more. Give us more what we're looking for. I want a wide variety of everything everywhere, and that's difficult to come by. So map generation, I mean, you can literally throw something together and throw it on your server and be done with it. But those of us that take pride in our maps, we will take time to build a map. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I spend a lot of time working and reworking the maps, not for perfection, but because they don't look right. And I've always got my players in mind when I'm making them. I want to make sure that basically no matter where they decide to settle down, there are resources close enough that they can get to them. And like this here, that's really cool to have a huge mountain range, but the problem is it takes up so much real estate. So if we can spread it out some, we might have some slightly bigger islands. I did make one map a while ago that it kind of reminded me of Norway and Sweden, I guess. But it was effectively an island chain that kind of came up one side and wrapped around like a horseshoe in a way. And they were thin and long, but there was a couple of little scattered islands around. Um, and the mountains themselves were thin, but really, really cool looking. And I regret not saving that map because that might have made for a good second server map. Yeah, see, that's just shoving them further out. We don't want that. So 25 is definitely not the way to go. Jiminy Christmas. Let's see. Yeah, let's go back down to 7. So it pulls everything closer to the center. And hopefully it doesn't mess everything up. But at least we know that 15 wasn't terrible, or 12 wasn't terrible. Or was it 10? It was 10, I think. Anyway, where we were at wasn't terrible. We did a big jump. We did a little jump to 15, and that didn't really change a whole lot. We did a big jump to 25, and that shoved everything out. Sometimes you get lucky with just going random seed, by the way. So if you're not finding anything you like, just generate random seeds until you find something that's workable, and then work with that one. Just uncheck the random seed and just keep working with it. And I will probably do a shorter video specifically on this, on just generating a map with the idea that, you know, you generated this map, this is exactly what you want. Now let's get into the biomes and all that stuff. It'll be a much shorter video. But right now we're really wanting to get the server up and running, so I have to focus on this. So we are hoping this actually turns out pretty well. Nope, that shoved him back down. Okay. So again, that was the seed that That was the seed that Corbett was mentioning. If that looked good to you, then I encourage you to work with it. Let's grab a random and see what happens there. Maybe we'll get lucky, because I'm getting a little frustrated with the map layout. I kind of like the one before, but I was not happy with certain aspects of it, and we don't want that. So we'll get a new height map, and we'll check out what it looks like. If it looks okay, then we'll shift over and drop the dirt and see how that looks. Crossing my fingers that that this first generation will actually be good, as we're rapidly encroaching that 2-hour mark of just working with the map generator. We still don't have a viable map. So like I said, sometimes it can take a while. Sometimes you're happy with the first result you get. Most of the time it's somewhere in the middle. I got puppy dogs lounging on the bed and on their bed. Come here, Peanut. Come here, Peanut. Come here. Ah, quit being stubborn. Okay, that one looks promising. I can still see the line coming down here, but again, that can be terraformed. So let's go into the dirt. We're going to drop the dirt and see what happens. To drop the dirt. Yeah, dropping the dirt. Watch. Watch, it's going to change. Yeah, in a few more seconds, it's going to change. Are you watching? I know this part's boring, huh? Yeah, I know this part's boring. You like watching Dad play the game, not make the maps. I know. Oh, almost. Almost. Watch. Almost. It's getting close. It's getting close. Yeah. Are you watching? Okay, now we're going to get the map. Now it's going to change. Oh, there it goes. That's at water height 300. Ugh. Well, that certainly didn't turn out the way I wanted. Really wish I could remember what the seed number was for the last one I did. I'm going to try an old number that I used to use a lot. See what happens there. And yes, I did find my ore list. So when we get to that point, drop ores. I think part of what's slowing it down is I pumped this up to 120 iterations, and it was at 80. But you can change that number to whatever you want. If you jack it way up, even on the strongest PCs out there, it's going to take a while, because it's directly related to how many times the generator goes through the various different tiles. That's not what I had, but I'm not, well, there's a line there. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Turn that off, set my seed. And drop the dirt. And of course you can change how much dirt per tile, the max slope, the max diagonal slope, um, the height at which you want the dirt to stop. I've got it set to 3,500 because I'm working with mountain. Well, actually, that needs to change too, because that should be 2,500. That's now covering the tops of the mountains. I like to have a little bit of rock at the top, so we could even go 2,900, since the max height on the height map is set to 3,000. But that's okay for now. It'll be fine. We're just trying to get a basic idea of what the land's going to look like. Looks like there might be some islands up this way. And then, of course, this is a large landmass here. And here and here. Doesn't look like it's going to offer very much real estate to build on, though. Or maybe I'm wrong. So there is a good amount of land to work with. Let's see. Can we generate rivers? I'm curious to see what that might look like on this map. And remember, we still have to go through the erosion. We might bring the water back up to 400, but I don't want to cut out too much of the land, so that could be an issue. Really wish there was a mountain over here, though. That would be kind of cool. And there are GM tools that you can add in via a mod. So if you have GM access, you can actually raise and lower the land how you see fit in the game. But trust me, terraforming as a GM in game after the map has been built is a struggle. That didn't give me any rivers. Okay, well, let's fix this. We're going to go to 2,900. We're going to fix the water height to, let's say, 350. And we're going to adjust the cliff ratio to double what it was. And we're going to update. Actually, let's do the water first, because that's going to show us what we're going to lose. Okay, we lose that little island up there. This becomes a little island. And this is now shallow down here. We don't really want shallow. We actually want more land. So if we go down to 250 and update the water, that'll show us a brown outline because that's dirt, like mud. And that gives us a few more smaller islands. Cuts out some of the little lakes and stuff. See, we don't want to go down too far because if we bring it down too far, the ships won't be able to sail anywhere. And that's never a good thing. So that's not going to really work that well either. So let's switch this and use the other number I used to use and see what we get with that one. One of these times I'm going to get a decent enough map that I can work with. That one's not bad. That's not a bad map. It's just not going to work for my purposes. Okay. Ooh, that actually looks promising. We're going to start off back at 400. We're going to bring this back down to 2.0. We're going to take a look at what that looks like. That looks promising. because that's a nice big inlet. Might have a couple of little islands in there. That looks like it's probably an island. That looks like it's probably an island. That up there looks like it's an island. Looks like there might be another one right there. That looks promising. And also, guys, if you have a height map that you want to use, you can import the height map as well. If you've got a map that you really like, and you've already got the height map for it, you can import it in here and generate a map based on that. So like, Australia, for example, if you wanted to use Australia as your map, you could easily do that. Okay, that's really not that bad. There's a cut through here. The long chain, see, it's still got those flat tops though. That's what bugs me about this, is those flat tops. But there's a bunch of different little islands without a massive amount of tiny islands. Let's, man, really hate to drop this even further. Let's see what it looks like at 2000. We're going to drop the iterations down to 80 again, make it a little bit faster. The resolution was, yeah, we're going to keep that where it's at. I want to try to get rid of these flat tops. But if I have to leave them, that's fine. We can do that. I mean, it's not a game changer by any means. Because realistically, I could bring the rest of the dirt up and cover the top, and those could be buildable areas for other people. If you really wanted a mountaintop fortress, you could have one. You'd be a ways away from water and have to use your climb skill a lot, but that's why they allow for building roads and such. You could build a road from down here all the way up this mountain so you could get to either one of these two, if that's what you wanted to do. That's not a bad setup. There's even a little mountain right over here. Not big, it's just a little guy. Okay, we go back into dirt and water, drop the dirt so we can see the map. You can't just click on map down here, even though it's viewing the height map right now, because it doesn't have any dirt. So until it does, it's going to give you an error saying that you need to drop dirt first. almost there. Okay, let's see what we got. Yeah, you can see they're still flat. So it's not going to matter what I do. Those mountains are going to be flat. So we're going to go through one more generation. We're going to bring this back up to 5,000 because I'm hoping that it actually expands out the sides a bit more. Yeah, because we even lost that guy by dropping it down. So we bring it back up to 5,000. We'll leave that at 80 iterations. We're going to bring, let's see, the border weight was, we're going to bring this to 5 just to change it just slightly. We're going to generate that map. And this is probably, if the 5 doesn't work, we'll switch it back to 7 and we'll stick with that map. Because this is definitely a workable map for sure. Now, by doing so, we're also going to lose this little cut through down here because it's going to bring the mountains closer together and the height is going to be higher. So that cut through is probably not going to be there. So if you were to build a settlement down here, you'd need to actually build a road up and through the mountain and back down if you wanted to get to the other side. But this is clearly more of a mining style map because of the number of mountains. Yeah, I know I didn't change the max dirt height, but it'll give us an idea. Land masses should be a bit larger. But I think this is probably where we're going to end up. All right, now time for the reveal. Water height 400. Yeah, see that kind of changed the mountains a little bit. We didn't lose that cut through. We actually gained a cut through. Plenty of land to work with. Lots of flat. Right next to the water. Excuse me. Got to drink some more coffee before Biddy gets mad. Okay. Yeah, I think we can work with this. Now let's adjust the dirt height. So we're at 5,000 there. We want a little bit poking out the top. So we're going to go 4,900. Just so there's 100 meters of dirt above. We're going to drop again. And then we need a road as well. Which you could do the erosion first. After you drop the initial dirt, you could do the erosion and then drop more dirt. But I wanted to get the height correct and then do the erosion. And this should show us where the dirt's going to end on the mountains. There we go. We just got a few little peaks sticking up. That's perfectly fine. We'll go to erosion. We're going to erode. Minimum slope 15, maximum slope 300. So that'll expose a bit more of the sides, because you don't want everything green. You want to have a bit of diversity. And if you're traveling the world and looking at different mountains and whatnot, you can clearly see that the sides of the mountains are not covered in dirt and grass. There are patches here and there, but we want to open it up to where it looks a bit more real. Not completely, but just a bit more. And then, like I said, new players come in, they see exposed rock face, they know that they can mine there, and they don't have to dig for an hour trying to get their skill up high enough to be able to just dig in the mountainside to get down to bare rock. They can expose a mine entrance right away and work on their digging when they want to. It's all about making sure that the players are happy. And this is a map that I could get along with. I don't have any of those really nasty lines cutting through. I don't have the corner line. I mean, there's still a little bit right there, but that's negligible. You can ignore that altogether. I kind of like this little landmass up here. I mean, obviously there's raised land there as well. There we go. Now we've got some, you can really see it here. We've got some exposed rock face. There's still some dirt and grass patches there. So definitely a workable map. All right. So now what we want to do is we don't want to auto drop the dirt. We want to generate rivers if we can. And sometimes it won't let you. Nope, I don't see any rivers. That's okay. Rivers are something that that the players can work with. They can, channel their own rivers. That's actually kind of cool. There's a couple of little spots to go through there. Now, if you really wanted to change this and make this an island itself, you can adjust the water height to say 450. And that submerges that section. I mean, it submerges everything throughout. So you look at the map, you see a couple of the smaller islands disappeared. Some of the edge of the land disappeared. That makes for shallows for like rowboats and stuff, but it also makes it very difficult for the bigger ships. But as you can see, now this is an open channel. I prefer just letting the players make their channels where they want. So I'm going to put this back to 400. Update the water. We're going to leave the cliffs as they are at 2.0. Okay, that just puts it all right back to where it was. Just to make sure that everything's correct, we're going to erode one more time, and we're going to drop dirt one more time. That'll help to smooth out some of those leftover rough edges. You can erode as many times as you want. Eventually, the entire landmass is going to be nothing but flat. So be careful. What you're doing by eroding is actually taking away the sharp edges and the height, including the mountains. So we're just kind of taking the edge off. We're going to drop the dirt again to fix the erosion. And you can adjust how much dirt per tile goes down and all that stuff still. Excuse me. A tickle in my throat. More coffee. But this map, I think, will work. It's not so bad. I mean, you can literally go from this corner to this corner without traveling the whole thing. If you had a boat, just sail straight across. You can go up and around and over here. You can, make your home on this little island right here, and you've got a short little jaunt down here. Swim to this island, swim to this island. You're done. Or landmass, sorry. There's plenty of water around. There's a lot of land. Several little islands that people can claim as their own. Okay, so if we go to topological map and then go back to view map, that's going to force a refresh. And that'll be the end result that you're looking at. There's the topological. Go back here. You can see there are high points. So warn your players, be careful of the shallow waters if they're making ships and whatnot. But realistically, that's not bad. You can pretty much sail just about anywhere in there and be fine. You get around these little islands, it might be a little tricky, but that'll work. Okay, so we're done with height map, erosion, and dirt and water. So now we go to, I like to go to the ores. And these are my settings. Yeah, I've already got them set up. So if you need to, pause the video, take a look, write these numbers down, whatever you want, but it's going to generate quite a bit of iron, not as much gold, a little bit more silver than gold, a decent amount of zinc, copper, lead, tin. Those are all starter materials. And then you've got the rock salt, which is useful for a few different things in game. You've got sandstone, which you'll build with. Slate, that's a little bit more rare than sandstone. Marble, that's more rare than slate. Those are your stone materials to build with. And then, of course, the adamantine and glimmer steel are quite a bit more rare. And everything else that's left is rock. So you want a lot of rock shards. This is not a, yes, the whole thing adds up to 100, but it's not a percentage-based thing. It's you can treat it like it, but it's not going to work quite as you imagine. This is based on weight. So while the two are very similar, they're not the exact same. If this is too much for your server, dial it back. Maybe you don't want glimmer steel and adamantine. Just put them at 0. Maybe you want half as much iron. You want more rock for stuff, and you want people to feel more accomplished when they hit the iron. Fine, dial that back. Make it 2 or 1.6, whatever you want to do. Then you just generate the ores, and that's going to put ores everywhere on the map. It's not just the mountains; it's everywhere. So there's the ore map. You can see there's ores even out in the water. This has nothing to do with the height. It doesn't matter where the mountains are. It just matters when they dig, what are they going to find? This map now determines what they're going to find where. So if you have a massive cluster of, say, iron right here, and people can see that, then they're going to know, oh, I need iron. I'm going to go over here because that's a mountain of iron. But by doing it this way, it makes everything scattered. So there's pretty much equal opportunity just about anywhere to find any of the ores, the stones, the mining type materials. And then you're done with it. You go into the biomes, and there's a ton of different biomes. Well, first and foremost, we want to start with the grass. Where'd my grass go? Right there, grass, because this has a flower percentage. You can set what flowers are in there, and I don't actually know exactly what these numbers mean, but they're different types of flowers. I leave it at random because I let the server decide what flowers grow where. Growth minimum, growth maximum, and then your flower percentage. That is across the map. So you have a 30% chance on any particular tile, not necessarily 30% of your map. But when it generates this biome, each tile has a 30% chance to have flowers if it's a grass tile. So you'll be able to find the various different flowers in the game. That is a huge improvement to some of the other maps that don't put the flowers in. People like flowers. They like to pick flowers. They like to plant flowers. They like to be able to have flowers in their property, their little settlement, whatever. Just put them in. It's easier. And you add the biome. I leave the seed count at 500 because that's basically going to cover the entire map. Biome size 200, that's going to make it overlap. So effectively, the entire map's going to be covered, the land anyway, not the water, is going to be covered with grass. This part takes a while. Grass is the slowest thing because it has so much that it has to cover. So be patient. It does work, but sometimes it's 15, 20 minutes just to deal with the grass. And then you can go through. What I tend to do is I will grab anything like the kelp, the reeds, all that stuff, and add it next to the water. You click this, and that adds it around the water. So that's plus or minus right around the water. So it's going to come up on the land a little bit. It's going to be down, in the sea area, the ocean area, whatever. So be careful with that button. Um, and then you move up a little bit. So you got to know where your water level is. So you go back into, while that's doing that, you can go back into your dirt and water and see, okay, my water starts at 400. So when I go into the biomes and I grab, oh, see right here, I set it, grass level starting at 420. So 20 meters above sea level is where you'll start to see grass. The reeds, for example, right here, I have set to from 390 to 399. That means that they stay in the water and they can be harvested from the water. They'll stick out a little bit, so players can still get to them. They can still manipulate them. A reed tile only needs to be, if I remember right, 8 meters below the surface of the water. I think it's something like that. And you can go to the northwest corner and drop dirt on that northwest corner, and it'll raise that corner of the tile up just enough so that you can harvest the reeds from it. You can, for every biome, you can set the density, the size, how many seeds there are, and we'll get into that here in a second once we can see the other map. um, but the seed count, which is how many of those patches, minimum height, maximum height, you want to basically make everything diversified. So, like, you don't want pine trees everywhere. You want pine trees. I mean, if you want them everywhere, then by all means. But I tend to set the pine trees closer to the mountains. So I'm going to have trees. There's my fir. There's my pine. So I set them at 500 to 1,000, and that's the only band of height that those pine trees are going to be at. Now you also have in the server settings, you have the tree growth um, factor as well. So if it is a tree that's right at that maximum height, it may decide to grow another tree, over time a little bit um, on the next tile up from that, or the next tile up from that. It has a chance to expand and grow because the worm maps are alive. They continue to develop and change over time. So I could leave a server running with nobody on it and one patch of pine trees for 5 years. Um, and by the time I come back, basically the entire map's going to be pretty much populated with pine trees because it's going to continue to grow. I can go through and wipe out a whole area and just leave 2 or 3 trees and then decide, you know what, I don't want to play here anymore. And I leave, and that server stays up and running. Well, that area that I built in eventually is going to decay. And then it's going to, the terraformed land that I created is going to start recreating grass. And then over time, it's going to start creating more trees. And it's just going to keep repopulating and effectively healing itself. That's one of the awesome things about um, the Wurm Unlimited and Wurm Online games is, hang on, I got my headphones caught in my chair. There we go. Is even if you leave the server, if it's an active server and it stays up and running, doesn't matter how much you built, how much you cut down, how much you mined, um, all that stuff's just going to eventually go away, and it'll open it up for somebody else. And that's provided that the GM doesn't come in and literally wipe it out and start over so that somebody else could build there. Or that somebody else comes in, since you've abandoned that location, somebody else could come in and decide to claim it for themselves and continue working on what you were already working on. They can make their own improvements to what you've already done. They can decide, well, you know what? I don't like the farm over here. I want it over here. So they start cultivating this other area and make that their farm, but they decide that where you had your farm, that's where they want their farmhouse. Or, they want to build an inn for, travelers to be able to come in and sleep in a bed. They can do whatever they want. Um, if nobody comes in and that server stays running, that map continues to, over time, heal itself. Um, and it continues to grow trees and grass and flowers and all that stuff so that the next person that comes in can deal with building where they want. Maybe they didn't set up their property lines the exact same spot that you did. Maybe it just kind of overlaps a little bit. Perfectly fine. As I told you, the the grass seeding for the grass biome does take a while. As you can see, it's just ticking by. But we can switch. Oh, we can't because it's still thinking. I was going to say we could switch the map view, but it's not going to allow that because it's still working on this. So instead, we go back over to here. That's not it. There it is. I got to adjust the view. If I can get the right doggone window. No, we'll just work with it. Okay, so this is the topological map of the old server. So you can see I was fighting a lot. Oops, let's go back down to the main town here. Right there. So you can see where the shallows cut off. That's even more shallow. But then this cuts off here. This is all effectively between two different heights. So like 20 meters and 50 meters, so to speak. And then it drops from 50 to 100, and then from 100 to 200, so forth. Those may not be the exact numbers, but you get the idea. What I was dealing with was a lot of terraforming in this area to try to lower that down so that players could actually sail fairly close to the shore if they wanted to. And it was a nightmare. So I wanted to try to fix that. And the problem was when I generated this map, although this is a really cool map and I really wish I still had it, the problem was all of this area here in between the islands, it was so shallow that it just wasn't working because I went into when I generated the map, I dropped the water level. Or I'm sorry, I raised the water level after generating the map, and I raised it again, and then I raised it again, but it was only little bits. So all of this was actually supposed to be land masses. This landmass was supposed to go all the way out to here. But because I raised it up, now the shallow areas, which were buildable areas, were now underwater. And I had to fix that. So it made it very, very difficult. So when you were, say, sailing from this island, oh, there's the island I was working with. I was looking for that earlier. I was working on this island as well as a GM type island, but a trade post. So I had a fishing guy out here that you could earn coin with. I had merchant stalls in here and whatnot. But that way players could trade with one another. But the problem is some of them already had bigger boats, so they weren't able to sail, say, from here over because their ship was stuck. They built it, but the water wasn't deep enough. So don't fall into that trap. You want to make sure your water's deep, so you don't want to um, raise your water level, by little bits. Because initially these were the channels that were supposed to be a lot or be saleable, and you can see I cut these channels in after the map was built because this whole area was shallow, and this was to try to make it so that people could sail around a bit more. So we're going to have to look at the topological map on the other one, and I don't know what this is. I really don't. It's almost a perfect circle, but we'll have to look at the topological map of the one I'm working on right now to see if it's gonna work for that, but I'm hoping it will. If not, what I'll have to do is I'll have to raise the water level up even more. That way I don't have to deal with the shallows. They'll still be somewhat similar to this. But the problem I found after I went live with it and there was people already playing was like, where'd that one spot go? Oh, it was over here. So I'm going to use my friend's area here as an example. Most of this was really flat, really shallow, and some of the area was unusable because it was so close to the water and so flat that it was basically just a flooded area. If I had have left the water level down a little bit more, she'd have had more area out here to be able to work on. And that would have made this whole area a little more shallow, sure, but the deeper areas would have been deeper. And chances are it would have brought all of this up to where it was land height, and that would have produced a lot more purchasable land for development. But I didn't do that. I messed up. And this happens to be a map that she really enjoyed, but I can't recreate this one very well. Yeah, I can go in here and I can grab the map file, but that's just going to give me this map file. It's going to give me this map file. It doesn't give me a height map, and that's why I said I would have to go back and use multiple different applications to try to where are we at? To try to generate a height map, and that's kind of a pain in the butt. We're about a little over halfway done with the grass. As you can tell, it is very time consuming. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end the stream here, and when this is done, I will start it back up. We're already at 2 hours 45 minutes. I want to get the YouTube video uploaded so people can watch what's been done so far. And then we'll just start a new recording from where we left off, and I can show you guys some more of the biome stuff and whatnot, and we'll go from there. So I hope you enjoyed, and Corbett, thanks for stopping by, hanging out for a while. Hopefully you come back when I restart the stream. That's going to be it for now. So we'll see you guys later.